You'll never quit. Billionaire Adrian Black said it with a smile. He was standing behind the glass wall of his corner office, looking down at the employees on the 42nd floor. But his eyes were fixed on Daniel Carter. Daniel was a single father. He worked as a project coordinator at Blackstone Technologies, and for 3 years, he had been one of Adrian's most reliable employees. He was never the loudest person in meetings. He didn't drive an expensive car. He didn't wear designer suits. His shoes were worn. His lunch usually came in a plastic container. And every afternoon at exactly 4:30, he left the office. Not because he was lazy, because his 10-year-old daughter, Lily, waited for him at school. Daniel had promised her he would never make her wait alone. That promise had begun 5 years earlier. Lily's mother had died suddenly after an illness that had turned Daniel's entire world upside down. At the time, Daniel had been working 2 jobs. He had barely enough money to cover rent, food, and medical bills. After the funeral, relatives told him he needed to move on. But Daniel didn't know how. Every morning, Lily woke up asking whether he would be home that evening. Every night, she slept with one of her mother's old scarves beside her pillow. Daniel realized something then. His daughter didn't need a perfect father. She needed a father who showed up. So he made a promise. No matter how difficult work became, no matter how much money he needed, he would be there when she walked out of school. That promise eventually cost him promotions. It cost him bonuses. And now, it was beginning to cost him his career. At Blackstone Technologies, Adrian Black believed employees should make sacrifices. He often told executives, if you want extraordinary results, you need extraordinary commitment. What he really meant was simple. Work first, everything else later. Daniel had heard this speech dozens of times. He simply never agreed. One Monday morning, Adrian called Daniel into his office. Daniel entered carrying a folder. Sit. Daniel sat. Adrian didn't look up from his tablet. You're leaving early again. Daniel glanced at the clock. It's 4:30. Exactly. My daughter's school closes at 5. Adrian finally looked up. You have responsibilities here. Daniel nodded. I know. Do you? Adrian leaned back. We're launching the Henderson project. I know. It's worth $80 million. I know. And you're one of the people responsible for keeping it on schedule. I know. Adrian pointed toward the door. Then why are you leaving? Daniel remained calm. Because my daughter is waiting for me. Adrian stared at him. She has a mother? Daniel's expression hardened. No. Adrian paused. I didn't know. She's gone. For a moment, Adrian said nothing. Then he shrugged. I'm sorry. Daniel nodded. Thank you. Adrian returned to his tablet. But business doesn't stop because your personal life is difficult. Daniel looked at him. I've never asked the business to stop. You leave every day at 4:30. After finishing my work. That's not the point. Then what's the point? Adrian stood. The point is ambition. Daniel frowned. You think leaving at 4:30 means I don't have ambition? I think you're limiting yourself. Daniel quietly closed his folder. My daughter isn't a limitation. Adrian smiled. That's what people say when they're afraid to sacrifice. Daniel looked at him for several seconds. Then he stood. I'll finish the Henderson report tonight. At home. Yes. That's not commitment. Daniel shook his head. No. He walked toward the door. That's responsibility. Adrian watched him leave. He wasn't angry yet. He was amused. Because Adrian believed every employee had a breaking point. And Daniel, in his mind, was no different. 3 days later, Adrian tested him. A major client presentation was scheduled for Friday morning. At 4:15 Thursday afternoon, Adrian called Daniel. I need the presentation rebuilt. Daniel looked at the file. Tonight. The client meeting is at 8 tomorrow. Exactly. Daniel checked the numbers. There are dozens of changes. Then start. I can have it ready by 8. 8 tonight. Daniel looked at the clock. His daughter would be waiting. He took a breath. I can finish it by 8 in the morning. Adrian's face hardened. I said tonight. Daniel remained silent. Are you refusing? No. Then do it. Daniel nodded. Okay. He returned to his desk. For the next 3 hours, he worked. He rebuilt charts, corrected financial projections, rechecked every figure. At 4:29, he saved the final version. Then he picked up his coat. His coworker Sarah stared at him. You're leaving? Yes. But Adrian told you to stay. Daniel pointed at the screen. It's finished. Sarah looked shocked. You actually finished all of it. Daniel smiled. My daughter is waiting. He walked out. The next morning, Adrian entered the conference room expecting a disaster. Instead, the client praised the presentation. The numbers were accurate. The projections were clear. The deal moved forward. Adrian said nothing, but his resentment grew. Daniel had proven that he could produce excellent work without sacrificing every minute of his life. Adrian couldn't understand it. Then came the restructuring announcement. On Monday morning, employees received an email. Mandatory all-hands meeting, 10 a.m. Everyone knew something was wrong. Rumors spread through the office. Layoffs. Department closures. Management changes. At 10, Adrian walked onto the stage. We're restructuring the company. The room became silent. Several departments would be merged. Some positions would be eliminated. Adrian read the list. Then he said, Daniel Carter. Daniel looked up. Your position is being eliminated. A few coworkers turned toward him. Daniel felt his stomach tighten. He had expected difficult conversations. He hadn't expected this. Adrian continued. Your responsibilities will be absorbed by another team. Daniel nodded slowly. I understand. Adrian smiled. You've been a good employee. Daniel didn't respond. Adrian leaned toward the microphone. But perhaps it's time for you to focus on what really matters to you. Everyone knew what he meant. His daughter. His schedule. His refusal to live at the office. Daniel stood. Thank you for the opportunity. Adrian's eyebrows rose. That's it. Daniel looked at him. What else should I say? You're not angry? Daniel thought about it. I am. Adrian smiled. Good. But I'm not going to waste that anger here. A few employees looked down to hide their reactions. Daniel returned to his desk. He opened the bottom drawer. Then he pulled out a cardboard box. His coworkers watched. He placed his coffee mug inside. Then the photograph of Lily. Then a small plant. Then a notebook filled with handwritten pages. Finally, he removed a framed drawing. It was a picture Lily had made of him. Underneath it were the words, My dad is my hero. Daniel stared at it for a moment. His eyes became wet. Then he placed it carefully inside the box. Sarah approached. Daniel. He looked at her. Are you really leaving? Daniel nodded. I am. You could appeal the decision. Maybe. You could fight. Daniel smiled. I've been fighting. She didn't understand. For 3 years, I've been fighting to prove I can be a good employee and a good father at the same time. He closed the box. I'm tired of proving it. Adrian appeared behind him. You'll never quit. Daniel turned. Adrian's expression was almost playful. You'll come back. Daniel looked at him. Why? Because people like you always realize what they lost. Daniel picked up the box. I already know what I lost. Adrian smiled. And what's that? Daniel looked around the office. My time. He walked past him. Adrian's smile faded. You're making a mistake. Daniel stopped at the elevator. He turned around one final time. No. He looked directly at the billionaire. I'm correcting one. The elevator doors closed. Daniel stood alone inside, holding the cardboard box against his chest. For the first time in 3 years, he didn't feel afraid of tomorrow. He felt free. But Adrian had no idea that Daniel's desk contained more than a coffee mug, a family photograph, and an old notebook. For 3 years, Daniel had quietly documented every operational problem inside Blackstone Technologies. He had noticed millions being wasted. He had identified fraudulent invoices. He had discovered why major projects repeatedly went over budget. He had even created a system that could save the company more than $20 million a year. He had shown the concept to management twice. Both times, they ignored him. So Daniel had kept working and kept taking notes. Now he was no longer an employee, and Adrian had just made the biggest mistake of his career. Because Daniel wasn't quitting his ambition. He was quitting the place that had convinced him he didn't have any. The next morning, while Adrian celebrated the restructuring, Daniel opened a laptop at his kitchen table. Lily sat beside him eating cereal. What are you doing, Daddy? Daniel looked at the screen. Then at his daughter. I'm starting something. She smiled. Is it a new job? Daniel smiled back. No, sweetheart. He closed the old Blackstone folder. It's my own. And for the first time in years, Daniel wasn't working for someone else's dream. He was finally building his own. The next morning, Adrian Black arrived at Blackstone Technologies expecting everyone to forget Daniel Carter by lunchtime. He was wrong. By 9 a.m., Daniel's empty desk had become the subject of whispers. At 9:15, Sarah walked into Adrian's office carrying a report. We have a problem. Adrian barely looked up. What problem? The Henderson project. It closed yesterday. I know. Then what's the problem? Sarah placed the report on his desk. The new team can't reproduce Daniel's forecasting model. Adrian frowned. Why not? They don't have it. Then tell them to build another one. We tried. Adrian finally looked up. How long? 6 hours. And they're still nowhere close. Adrian leaned back. Daniel left his files. Sarah hesitated. Not all of them. What does that mean? He kept some of his working models on his personal system. Adrian's expression hardened. Call him. Sarah looked uncomfortable. He probably won't answer. Call him. She did. Daniel answered after the third ring. Hello. Daniel, it's Sarah. Hey. Adrian needs your forecasting model. Daniel was silent. Which one? The Henderson model. Daniel smiled faintly. I don't work there anymore. Sarah glanced at Adrian. I know. Then why would I give it to you? Sarah didn't have an answer. Adrian leaned toward the phone. Daniel. Daniel recognized his voice. Mr. Black. Come back to the office. No. We need you. Daniel looked across the kitchen. His laptop was open. His daughter was doing homework at the table. For the first time, he had nowhere he had to rush to. That's unfortunate. Adrian's jaw tightened. Name your price. Daniel laughed softly. That's not the point. Then what is? You fired me. I can reverse that. No. Double your salary. No. Triple. Daniel paused. Not because he was tempted. Because he realized Adrian still didn't understand. You think this is about money? Adrian said nothing. Daniel continued. It's not. Then what is it about? My life. Adrian scoffed. You'll never build anything without people like me. Daniel looked at Lily. She was drawing a picture. Maybe. Then he said, but I don't need to build it with you. He ended the call. Sarah slowly lowered the phone. Adrian stared at her. What did he say? He said no. Adrian's face reddened. He's bluffing. But he wasn't. By noon,